everybody. Today we're going to wrap up with our rabbit series. If you've enjoyed some of our other videos that we've done on rabbits, this is the last one we're going to do, and this is on housing. We're going to talk about how do you take care of these guys in their house? Where do you keep them? What size cage? What do they need inside their cage? That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, rabbits need a lot of room. We recommend the largest cage that you can possibly have, but not only a cage, we recommend a playpen. We recommend the cage, and you keep them in the cage for their own safety so that they don't get into wires or chew on things that they shouldn't chew on that could be dangerous, but that you give them outside the cage time as well. In fact, some people have an entire room that has been bunny proofed, and we're going to take a look at some videos of Mr. B's room then show you how elaborate a setup can be for a rabbit. And Mr. B does have a cage, but he's very rarely in it, but he does have access to that. So bunnies require a lot of space. That's one thing to think about when you get to a bunny. And the other thing to think about when you get them is whether you want to have one or two. They tend to be social creatures, so sometimes people will recommend having two bunnies, but you have to really do some research on what we call bonding. When you get them young and they're the babies and they grow up together, it's a little easier, but it's not impossible to do even if you have an older bunny and you decide to get one later on. But you need to do a lot of research on that so that you can do it safely. So bunnies do need to have some time in their enclosure if you're not going to be there or if they're not in a rabbit-proof room. So we recommend having one of the playpens for them too, or again, if you can do it, making a bunny-proof room so they can have access to everything in the room. And bunnies aren't just an animal to put in a cage and let them be. They need enrichment. You've probably heard that word used a lot for zoos. Zoos are big on making sure their animals have enrichment. Well, our pets should have enrichment as well. So you don't just want to have a bunny cage with some bedding in the bottom and a litter box and a food bowl and a water dish. You need to have things to entertain them, to enrich their lives. So we have a couple things that we're going to look at, and some of them have dual purposes. For example, this is one of our hides. And not only does it provide the bunny with some security of going in and hiding, and it also provides them with something to chew on, something to climb on top of. So it's an enrichment and a hiding spot. You could use something like that, which is made out of hay. You could also get one of our cloth hides. This one is one of our Oxbow, which is a very nice brand that we have quite a variety of items from Oxbow. They make wonderful enrichment items for small animal pets. So this is another one, a choice of a hide, and of course the bunny can also hop on top of here. And yes, the bunny can chew on this, and it is safe to be chewed on. So when you see it's chewed down too far and the opening is big enough for 3 bunnies, then you simply get another one. But this is something that we recommend having in their habitat, so something for them to hide, and also again these can provide enrichment. Now, bunnies' teeth are growing. They need to be kept filed down so that they can properly eat things like their hay and their pellets and digest them. Some of our, this one isn't an apple, but we have some applewood sticks, and they actually have a tannin in them that is good for the bunny's digestive system as well. So again, many of these things have many purposes. This is a little cardboard wheel thing that they can play with, and if you watch bunnies, they will often take toys and flip them. That's a big thing that bunnies like to do. They like to grab hold of something that's light enough and flip it around. So again, all this is what we call enrichment for the bunny. So you need to have a lot of different things in your playpen area and also inside your habitat as well. Now we have a bag of litter here. This is recycled fresh news. Okay, this is fresh news. This would go in your litter box, and then the bedding that you have on the bottom of the habitat would be something different, and that's important. You want the bedding in your litter box to be a different type of bedding than what you have in the bottom of your cage, and that's to serve as letting the bunny know, okay, this is something different. This is where I go into put my waste product in here. This is different than the rest of my habitat. So we always recommend that you have 2 different types of bedding. One that can be all over the bottom of your enclosure, and then one that's just for your litter box. And yes, bunnies can be litter box trained. And if you have your playpen and it's set up right outside of your habitat, the bunny, if he has access to it, will actually learn to go back into the cage, use the litter box, and then come back out. So it is possible for them to be litter trained, and having a different type of litter in that litter box is helpful to get them to do that training. Where the bunny has already chosen to do most of its waste products. So they'll pick out a corner and you'll see it. It'll be very wet there. It'll be a lot of droppings there. That is where you want to put the litter box. When you add the litter box, you want to put it in that corner because that bunny has already decided that's the corner he wants to go in. And some of our litter boxes, like this one, actually have a lock that you can lock onto the side of habitats. So that makes it nice that bunnies can't pick it up and toss it around. Like I said, they like to toss things around. So that makes a good choice for that too. Okay. All right. This is another form of enrichment. And we're going to talk about this along with our treats. This is something, this is actually, yes, Simple Rewards. This is with cranberry in it. So this is like a sniffy mat, I've heard them called. They call it a hide and seek mat. So basically, you put this mat down in your bunny's cage and you hide treats in it. Or you can hide toys, but treats are usually a little more appealing. So the bunny has to sniff around to find the treats. Again, it's a form of enrichment. This is a baked cranberry treat. We also have a papaya treat, and papaya has enzymes in it which are very good for the bunny's digestive system. So something to keep in mind, you want to have some papaya treats on hand because papaya is good for their digestive system. Okay, so we talked about enrichment, we got our litter pan in there, we have our bedding, we have our hiding spots, and then we need to talk a little bit about the diet. And if you watched our previous video on rabbit diet, you'll know that 80% of the diet is hay. And this is to keep their hay from being flat on the ground. This is just something, again, keep the hay on, keep it a little bit cleaner, and the bunny can pull it out through the slots that are on the side. Alrighty. Some things when you set up their house, what to keep in mind. Well, you want to keep them in an area where the family is so they can be part of the family and they're not just pushed into a corner. But when you first take them home, you want to be aware of an area where there might be loud noises, sudden movements, noises that they can hear but they cannot see the source of. Very high stressor for rabbits. So if a rabbit is in a room and he can hear a noise but he's not sure what that noise is, that's very high stress for a rabbit. Don't want them to think that there's predators around, so you want to keep your other animals away from the bunny's cage. Especially at first. Maybe eventually the rabbit will get to know that, oh, okay, it's that dog and the dog hasn't hurt me. But again, you don't want to have the dog coming over and poking at the rabbit. That's a stress. And stress is very bad for us, and it's very bad for animals. You always want to supervise your bunny around any other animal, regardless of how many times that they've seemed to interact fine. You don't want to take that chance. You know, of course, some dogs have a high prey instinct, so you want to be very careful with your bunny. Temperatures, they need to be like room temperature. 75 is very good. They suffer more from overheating than underheating, so they can take it a little bit cooler than they can take it hotter. So that's important. And keep them out of drafts though. So you don't want them in a drafty area, but they could handle a lower temperature as opposed to handling a higher temperature. And we have all kind of tips if your bunny is getting overheated. You can mist their ears. They tend to, it's like a sweating and it evaporates, so you mist their ears with some water. You can get a cooling stone. They're actually made for chinchillas, but they're good for any small animal pets, and they're like a piece of marble, so that helps them. And also, if it's really hot, like say your air conditioning went off, you could freeze some water or milk jugs and then bring them into the bunny's habitat, and they'll lay against that to help cool themselves down. So overheating is more of a problem than underheating, but obviously you don't want to keep them in a drafty area. Lack of exercise. Exercise allows the bunny to feel better. Exercise also, if they have any kind of static gut going on where things have stopped, giving them some exercise can do alone just help them get over that hump and help to relieve some gas pressure that is built up. Exercise is also good if they have any kind of respiratory issue. Again, it loosens up the mucus. So exercise is very important. Being in a cage that is too small is stressful for the bunny. Being outside the cage and not being able to access everything in the cage is a stressor. So if you have a cage with all of your goodies in it, your water, your food, your hay, you let the bunny out, you need to make sure that the bunny can then get back to his cage. Because if he can't get back to everything he's used to in his cage, that becomes a stressor for the bunny. So you want to make sure you have that too. Okay? All right, spaying and neutering, that's something that we recommend. In fact, we have some workers here who have their own bunnies, and they've found a big difference when they spay or neuter their pet rabbit. You do have to find a vet that is doing that, but more and more are becoming places that you can take an animal like a rabbit to vets that are local, and they'll do spaying or neutering. It just takes away all the hormone fluctuations that they have and makes them for a nicer pet. And again, if you ever do decide to add another bunny, you already have your bunnies altered, and then I would recommend you get the other bunny altered as well. Okay? All right, so we're going to take a look at Mr. B's house and show you how elaborate somebody can have their bunny. And I think Mr. B is quite a lucky bunny to have the space that he has. And I want to tell you guys, I can't tell you too much information, but come spring, there's going to be a lot of new small animal supplies coming out. In fact, some mazes and treat dispensers that are for small animals, so look for that in the spring. I'm sure our marketing department will do a little video when those things come in. Thank you.